Good morning. Please rise and join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Attention seniors, come join the class of 2025 for the free senior night at Get Air Trampoline Park on Friday, January 24th from 6 to 9 p.m. Pizza and drinks will be provided. Check the Google Classroom for more information. See Mrs. Connors or Mrs. Rodemeyers with any questions. Spanish Culture Club is meeting today at 2 p.m. in room 324 to learn about and celebrate Three Kings Day. Come join the fun. All are welcome. See Senora Connors with any questions.
Join Educational Outreach for our next meeting on Wednesday, January 15th at 2 p.m. in room 328 to work on our next service project and plan our spring fundraiser. All are welcome. See Miss Adele or Mrs. Holterman with any questions. Board Game Club will have its next meeting on Thursday, January 16th in the library after school. Bring a friend and come play some new games. See Mr. Weiss or Mr. Ferrara with any questions.
Attention Buddy Club members. Our next meeting is Wednesday, January 15th. The bus will be available at the gym doors at 2:55. Be there a few minutes early. See Mr. Boehm with any questions. Attention all freshman homeroom reps. There will be a mandatory meeting on Thursday, January 16th at 2 p.m. in room 356. Be there or be square.
Varsity Club will be meeting this Thursday morning at 7 a.m. in the auditorium. New members are welcome. If you are unable to attend, please see Mr. Graffio in room 130. Attention all students! Come to the Midwinter Art Show. There will be an opening reception on Thursday after school in the library. There will be a student artwork on display. Yummy snacks and drinks. Come and join us.
This is news for Wednesday, January 15th, 2025. Today's cycle is 3 and stay tuned for the Kids Escaping Drugs presentation.
everybody. Good morning. This morning we're fortunate enough to have a presentation from Ashley Gedra with Kids Escaping Drugs. And I'm going to just turn it right over to her. This is a really important topic to understand more about as you begin making decisions about choices that you make in your life. And I know we have a little bit of a time restraint, so I'm just going to hand it right over. So thank you so much, Ashley, for being here this morning.
All right, good morning. My name's Ashley and I'm the program coordinator with the Face-to-Face program at Kids Escaping Drugs. My job in a nutshell is community outreach and education. I'm not here to change anybody's mind. I'm not here to villainize or demonize. I am here to make sure that you leave this presentation with the correct information so that you can make informed decisions for yourself. The stuff that we know and understand about vapes and especially cannabis products at this point changes every day. There's a lot of misinformation and disinformation that exists surrounding substance use, especially among youth. So it's just kind of my job to dispel those myths and make sure that you have the correct information to kind of move through high school and the rest of your life with making informed decisions. So I'm gonna just kind of jump right in. Whoa, where is my, okay, apparently we're out of order. All right. So top reasons why young people start using drugs. This list never changes. All right, they might move around in order, but all of the reasons why we see young people start to use or experiment with drugs and alcohol is always the same. All right, friends, parents, availability, right? When I started smoking at 15, it was because my dad was smoking, my aunts and uncles were smoking, and I used it as a justification. It was an excuse, right? My dad does it, so it's not a big deal. My aunts and uncles do it, so it's not a big deal, right? If you're surrounding yourself with people that vape or drink or smoke or whatever the case is, it could be really easy to fall into that it's not a big deal because everybody else around me is doing it kind of justification, all right? But really at the end of the day, that's an excuse, all right? So there's also a piece here that is kind of like an accountability piece, right? Because I know you guys specifically in here are freshmen, but you know, people that have younger siblings, whatever, you got middle schoolers, right, that interact with you guys on a regular. I had a 6th grader come in, he got caught with a vape at school. 6th grade. My first question was, well, where did you get it? And this kid looked at me and said, I was walking around my neighborhood and I found it and I picked it up. Right? 6th graders aren't thinking that that's gross and not sanitary and unsafe. But my next question was why? And he said, well, because I ride the bus with the 7th and 8th graders and they all have them, and I want them to see me a certain type of way. I want to be part of what they're doing. I want them to see me in a different light, and I want them to see me as cool or accept me or whatever the case is. Now, as a 6th grader, well, I should say as 9th graders, as high schoolers, you guys know that that's a follower mentality. 6th graders don't have that level of, thinking, but that's where it starts, all right? Especially when you have kids that are just looking for that piece of acceptance, all right? Popular media and celebrities, they're called social media influencers for a reason, and it's to influence. And when we get into the kind of advertising piece of this, we're gonna talk about why social media and this algorithm that everybody keeps talking about has completely changed the way that these industries have access to you specifically as the youth, all right? So, escape and self-medication. This is by and large the biggest reason we see young people start to experiment with drugs and alcohol, especially people that struggle with mental health stuff, okay? Anxiety, depression, ADHD, really any of those neurodivergencies. And 9 times out of 10, it's really just because when someone's struggling, they just want to not struggle anymore. And sometimes when you have this substance that kind of takes that struggle away for a little while, it's an escape. But the problem with that is it'll work until it doesn't. And then what? Okay? So I'm gonna kind of run through this. This is kind of an interactive piece because I do this for middle schoolers too, and they don't sit still. So let's kind of jump right into this specifically. Well, let me go back because my slides were out of order. So drugs and alcohol fall into one of 2 categories. They're system depressants or they're system stimulants. Depressants do exactly what they sound like. They slow everything down, they chill everything out, they pump the brakes. All right, stimulants do the exact opposite. All right, they speed things up. Now, you have to understand that the way that we know and understand how drugs and alcohol interact with the brain come exclusively from a neurotypical standpoint, right? Somebody whose brain works typically. All right, so if you are not one of those people, if you are somebody that struggles with mental health, right, anxiety, ADHD, depression, really any of those kinds of things, those are instances where your brain doesn't work typically, right? It doesn't balance itself out, it doesn't make what it's supposed to as far as, the hormones and the chemicals. And so often we see drugs and alcohol have, I guess, opposite effects, right? When I started smoking, I had undiagnosed ADHD. All right, what I didn't understand then, and what I know as an adult now, is that it had the opposite effect on my brain, right? So that's usually why we see people with ADHD get treated with stimulants, is because instead of speeding the brain up, it actually slows the brain down. All right, so if you're somebody that struggles with those kinds of things, you have to understand that this does not necessarily apply to you. All right, so, hang on, okay. So jumping right into it, because I know that you guys talk about the mental health and the health implications and all that other stuff, but this is where our program gets a little bit different, all right? Because I want you guys to understand how you specifically have been targeted. And this is a marketing strategy that has worked for, I think it's like 85 years, something like that, all right? And this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, right? Big tobacco, cigarettes, chewing tobacco, vapes, cigars, all of those things fall under this industry, all right? And they did not get to be a multi-billion-dollar industry because they waited for you to tell you how awesome their product was, all right? They got on the biggest platforms they could and they shouted it as loud as they could. So for my generation, I fall into the millennial category, right? We had TV commercials, radio ads, magazine advertisements, that kind of stuff. Now, when I said that social media has completely changed the way that this industry has access to you, it is because when companies put stuff out on the TV or the radio or in advertisements, they have to adhere to a stringent regulation by the FCC. That's a government agency that says what they can and can't say on TV and radio and stuff like that. When you have people like TikTok influencers and YouTubers posting to their personal channels, there is no regulation, right? You can't tell people what they can and can't say on their own platforms. You can give them community guidelines violations, but at the end of the day, you can't control what somebody puts on their own platform, right? So these social media influencers get paid to make sure that they're pushing out certain products to you, right? When you see a food review, those influencers don't really care that you have the information as to who has the best wings in Buffalo. They're doing it because it draws attention to their accounts. And when they get enough attention to their accounts, they can monetize it. Monetizing it means they get money. Right, that's it. They don't care if you know where the best wings in Buffalo are, right? They don't care if you see this product that they're using and you decide that it looks really awesome and you pick it up. Like, they're just doing it to get attention to their channel, all right? And with that, okay, so we had to kind of shift. So I want you guys, because these are not gonna do my transition, so look at these two up here in your left corner, all right? These are for, all right, we're gonna kind of talk about historically, because like I said, this has been an advertising strategy that they've used for 85 years. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it, okay? So this is called target audiences, all right? They pick groups of people based on race, gender, cultural identity, whatever the case is, and they push out these advertisements to these specific groups of people, all right? So let's talk about these two up here. The one, Newport Pleasure, and then Cool right here. These are for what are called menthol cigarettes. Have you ever had mom and dad put Vicks Vapor Rub on your chest when you get sick? So you know that like cool, almost minty feeling? They took that and they put it into the cigarette, right? It was actually almost like a flavored version of a cigarette. And the whole point was to kind of make it a little bit more palatable. All right? Now, what we know now that we didn't know then was that menthol actually made the cigarette more addictive. All right, guys in the back, you got something to share? Thanks. Okay. Now, there's a couple of things that I want to touch on about all of these advertisements because it's something that we're going to see across every single advertisement that we're going to look at. All right, what's the first thing that stands out to you about those two advertisements that they have in common? Bueller. Go ahead. Well, no, they're not actually. These advertisements are from the 80s. Be nice. Yeah, but 40 years ago, these were 20-year-olds. Right? Go ahead. So that's what we're going to end with because that's a really important discussion and I want to save some time for that. All right? How about they're happy? You can't put miserable people in an advertisement and expect people to want to buy your product. That's just the bottom line. The subliminal messaging has to be, look how happy our product makes people. You could be this happy if you use our product, right? It seems like a no-brainer, but the subliminal messaging is the whole point, right? Now, you said they look older, but you have to remember that this is the 80s, right? And at one point, you could purchase this nicotine products at 18. It wasn't until 2020 that it became 21, all right? So they're targeting the younger generation. Why is that? Because the older generations, right, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70-year-olds, have been looking at these advertisements for 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. Chances are, if we're going to pick up the product, we've already done it, all right? Now, those 60, 70, 80-year-olds are going to start dying off. It's morbid, but it is what it is. Who has to be there to replace them to continue to be a multi-billion-dollar industry? The younger generation, right? So they're targeting youth, young people, young adults, I guess I should say. Now, back to your point over here, that was the target audience, was the Black community. And the reason that I set aside a little bit of time to talk about it is because this particular product did so much damage to the Black community that they're still fighting it in Congress today, all right? Now, at Big Tobacco's height in the 80s, 90s, and into the early 2000s, 90% of smokers of color smoked a menthol brand cigarette. That is a wildly successful marketing campaign. 90% is insane. You can't buy that rate of success, all right? But we just said that the menthol made the product ultra addictive, right? So we pushed out an ultra addictive product to a community that already lacked access to resources, education, healthcare, right? They were already at a disadvantage, and then we pushed out a super addictive product to them specifically, right? And the reason we have to talk about it is because if we don't learn from our mistakes, we can't do better, all right? Now, let's look at these two, right? The ones that say Virginia Slims, all right? You see them? Who is that target audience? Nope. Go ahead. Women, yep. Now, when I tell you that the mentality that we're going to talk about with this marketing was a mental illness, I'm so serious, all right? So you can kind of see in this one over here, but that cigarette was made to be long, skinny, very feminine, very petite, all right? Now for reference, if you look at the package for the Virginia Slim, a regular size pack of cigarettes would come like just above where it says Virginia Slim. So they made them much longer, they made them very skinny, right? Very feminine, very petite. Now I want you to think about like, if you've ever seen people for like movie stars or musicians from like the 80s, 90s, and into the early 2000s, right? Cher, if you know who that is, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, right? Those kinds of people. What do they all have in common physically? Yep. When I tell you that this was a mental illness, we didn't have body positivity. There was no beautiful, no matter what, love yourself no matter what. Like, as young women, especially when I was growing up, we were told, as young ladies, that the only way we held value or were beautiful within society was if we met those societal standards. Skinny, tall, usually blonde, all right? Now, when I tell you it became a mental illness, I went to high school with girls that took rulers out of their backpacks in the gym locker room and measured whose hip bone stuck out the furthest. Like, it truly became this obsession for a lot of people. But when you're told that over and over again, and then the products being pushed out to you reflect that standard of beauty, that does a lot of damage to a young person's mental state, right? So then they doubled down. Right? We made Virginia Slims especially for women because women are dainty and beautiful and sweet and generally different from men. This one says, they're tailored slimmer to fit our hands, and now ladies, even our lips are too delicate, too dainty. We can't handle a regular size cigarette, we need our own, right? This is gross to me, right? As a woman today, as a successful woman today, this is patronizing. It gives me the ick, all right? But they doubled down. The tagline is, you've come a long way. If we reach back into history, where did women come from? Historically speaking. Historically, their mom. All right, so let me ask you this. At one point, were women allowed to vote? No. Did you know that it's only been 60 years that women have been allowed to have their own bank accounts without a man's name on it? 60 years, that's this lifetime. All right? So they reached back into the history books and compared themselves with the women that fought for women to have those rights because they made us our own cigarette, right? So come down here to this corner. Doctors and dentists were on the payroll too, all right? Doctors were paid to tell their patients that cigarettes would help them breathe better, would help them open their lungs. If they were athletes, it would help increase their endurance and run longer distances, right? All things we medically know are not true, okay? Dentists were paid to tell their patients that cigarettes would help reduce cavities, gum disease, right? Now, anybody know somebody that smoked cigarettes for a long time? What color are their teeth? Brown, yellow, right. We can visually see all these years later that that was garbage. But think about it from this perspective, all right? Doctors got paid to get their patients addicted to the product, and then when they discovered that the product made their patients sick, who did they go back to? So they got paid on the front end to get their patients addicted to the product, and then they got paid on the back end when the product made their patients sick. Who's fixing those funky yellow teeth? Right, dentists. They got paid on the front end to get their patients addicted to the product, and now they're getting paid on the back end to fix the outcome, the long-term effects. Okay. Then your generation came along. You were a huge problem for this industry, okay? Your generation, so by your generation I mean Gen Z and Gen Alpha right now, okay? You guys came along and said, look, we know cigarettes cause lung disease, heart disease, COPD, emphysema, all this other stuff. Also, don't know who needs to hear this, but nobody wants to smell like they've been licking ashtrays all day. They stink. We're all set. Right? The older generations can have them. They're good. We're just not going to touch them. But we just said if you're not there to replace the older generations as they go extinct, they're not going to stay a multi-billion-dollar industry, are they? So they hired new marketing executives. They slapped some really pretty colors and some really awesome mango, tango, razzle dazzle, bubble gum, whatever the heck flavors of the week it is. And I'm here to tell you, Your generation ate it up. You bought it hook, line, and sinker. And that is not a problem that is specific to you. It is countrywide. All right? So let's look at these advertisements. I want to go this one and then the two colorful ones. We go back to the same concepts. They are young. They're having a good time, right? She looks like she's going out to some type of like party. I don't know. He looks like he's having a great time. Up top, I'm not sure what he's doing, but somebody said he looks like Bieber. I don't see it, but whatever. All right? Now, this industry recognized that they had a new opportunity with your generation. All right? You guys want to come finish my presentation for me? Thanks. They recognized that they had a new opportunity with your generation, all right? Where they had been targeting these smaller groups, right? They targeted the black community, they targeted women, right? They had been targeting these small groups of people. They now recognized that they could target 2 whole generations at one time, all right? And that is a much bigger group than the smaller ones that they had been targeting. And that's exactly what they did, all right? Both of these advertisements are for a brand of e-cigarette called Juuls, all right? They were the most popular between 2015 and 2017. They were banned in 2020, and they were brought back in 2022 with a whole mess of regulations. Now, they were some of the very first flavored e-cigarettes that we saw on the market. They got banned in 2020 after a whole bunch of lawsuits because people started putting together that they were running advertisements on Cartoon Network, Disney Channel, and Nickelodeon. Who was the target audience? Right. Like I said, they had an opportunity to target 2 entire generations of people, all right? So I want to kind of just go through this real quick. Does anybody know why it's called a Hyde, spelled H-Y-D-E? Okay, that's not the reason, but why is that the first thing that came to your mind? Yeah, because they're tiny. They're designed to be easy to hide. But let me ask you this, friends. Everyone over the age of 21 is allowed to have these. I don't have to hide them from anybody. Why do they need to be designed to be easy to hide? Right. You guys have to hide them from teachers and parents. Right? They're being designed for people who are not legally allowed to have them. Yeah. That is 100% correct. Do you know what formaldehyde is? Do you know what it is? So it's used in taxidermy, but its primary purpose, so for anybody who didn't hear, it's called a Hyde, spelled H-Y-D-E, because it contains a chemical called formaldehyde. All right? Formaldehyde is used to preserve dead bodies before they get put into the caskets and put on display in the funeral homes. All right? You know when you go in the funeral homes and they're laid out in the casket? They have been, like, I guess, pumped with that preservative to stop the decay process. All right? Here's the problem. Because this safe alternative was the whole selling point. It was the gimmick. It was a safe alternative to cigarettes. It was a safe way to quit smoking. That was the whole gimmick when they were introduced to the U.S. market in 2007. All right? Formaldehyde, we've known for over 4 decades, 100% causes cancer. Like medical fact, it's not disputable at all. It causes cancer for a fact. It's been in the cigarettes from day one, and it's been in the vape liquid from day one. All right? So it contains the same cancer-causing chemicals, but they're tossing this word safe around. Does that sound like super safe to you, or does it just sound irresponsible? A lie of omission is still a lie. Not telling someone that it contains these chemicals because you don't want them to be grossed out by your product is still a lie. So we're gonna go to this part because this is kind of really important. My coworkers and I kind of realized that they don't really ever quantify how much of anything is in these products. So we did it. We did some research and we did some math. One 5,000 puff vape has the same amount of nicotine as 16 packs of cigarettes. There's 20 cigarettes in a pack. Even someone that smokes a pack of cigarettes a day at the end of the week has smoked 140 cigarettes. We've almost doubled that. All right? Now I'm here to tell you this equals out to 3,200 milligrams of nicotine. We've never ever seen that much nicotine in anyone's body. It's never existed before. Adult, kid, nobody. We have no idea what this is going to do to anyone's brain or anyone's body in 5, 10, 15 years from now. You want to know who they're waiting for to give them that information? You. You're the guinea pigs. You're the experiments. Right? When you start showing up with, this symptom and that symptom in 5, 10 years, and they start attributing it to the vapes, they're going to be like, oh, well, I guess vapes cause this. Thank you for your contribution to science. I guess now we know. Right? So the problem with that is if somebody could get a 5,000 puff vape to last 2.5 weeks, and my friends that vape really say it's probably more like a week and a half at most. That would be the equivalent of smoking 27 cigarettes a day. That's almost a pack and a half every day. Okay? That's me. That's it. I think that's about. Okay.